Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show, it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Hightown. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with Jackie's side of things in this episode, as she's hanging out with her dad, drinking. Now, the thing is, her dad, I didn't bring this up last episode, but her dad offering her a drink is pretty messed up, but I don't know if he necessarily knows that she's sober and she has her issues. To be fair, he's got his own issues, so he can't probably see it within himself, so there's no way he's going to see it within her. But obviously for her, it's a way to just get away from everything. Like, she's like, yeah, I kind of deserve a drink with my job and everything. I even love it at one point her dad's so focused on a football game. She's like, did you hear anything he said? He's like, yeah, your job sucks, I get it. It's like he's halfway listening to her. But, because obviously for Jackie, she's like, at the end of the day, like, no one loves me. That's why I'm here with you right now. And it's just a whole conversation about, oh, Leslie Babcock, she's a bitch. And he's like, whoa. You don't get to call her that. Only I get to call her that. Fucking bitch. And you're just like, yeah. And even him trying to, justify, but being like, nah, I love you, you know? And he's like, you see this? And he got like a pride flag tattoo. And she's like, wait, you got that from me? He was like, I ain't gay. But yeah, people at the docks make fun of me, but it's like, at the end of the day, you're my kid and I love you. And I'm like, part of me's like, did you actually, maybe in his own way he did think like, oh no, I'm showing support, I would think like, I feel like the go-to would be like, oh, I'm gonna get my child's name. But I guess it's like, I guess, getting the pride flag is like, oh yeah, like, not only do I love you, I'm also in support of you. I accept you as who you are. Because that's the thing for Jackie. It's like, she feels like no one accepts her for her. So, like, being that symbolic of like, oh, I got a pride tattoo, meaning like, I love you as my kid. And, you being gay doesn't make me love you any less. Like, I support you through and through. I think that's kind of probably in that moment, just like, oh, thanks, Dad. Especially because he doesn't judge her for being the fuck up that she is. Everyone else does. But that's, once again, he's not going to judge you because judging you would be, because he's not willing to look in the mirror when it comes to himself. So, of course, he's not going to say anything about you, because calling you out could lead to you calling him out. So it's like, now, let's keep the party rolling. Let's have fun. His lady friend that stops by, they go see his dealer, and I thought things were about to go a little sideways when he found out that Jackie was a cop. Now, granted, this could always circle back around, but I'm like, I guess as a cop, getting high could, I don't know the ins and outs of, like, how that would work. I think, like, you being, like, some cops would have to do it if they were undercover and stuff like that, but I just wonder if that guy's going to come back to try and screw Jackie over later on, like he gets arrested or something, and he tries to call in a favor, like, oh, you're going to help me out of this, or I'm going to expose you from, like, I don't know if that's enough for him, because he was getting antsy because he found out she was a cop. So, the good times just kept rolling, because Jackie's like, the more she's focused on the good times, the less she had to focus on anything else. But, she ended up doing crack, which was interesting. She took the hit and everything. Granted, she kind of had like a vision. Like, to be fair, this ain't the first time that's really happened. Obviously it came up last season too, but circumstances are a little different. Like, that's a situation where you discovered a dead body and it was kind of haunting your dreams. This was you seeing Daisy, and she's like, oh, I guess no one cares that I'm dead. But I guess on some, and maybe that just shows you how good Jackie's instincts are, that on some level, subconscious level, she realized, like, she hadn't been able to get in contact with Daisy, that maybe something might have happened to Daisy. So I think maybe that's what that can be indicative of. And it was interesting, she went down and her dad and his lady friend are arguing with the drug dealer dude, because he's like, right, we don't have $80. He's like, do you have, she's like, I don't have any money. He's like, okay, why don't you spend time with home dude? And Jackie's almost like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, just get close to him. He doesn't care that you like girls or anything like that. Because last night he was defending Jackie when the guy was like, oh, you got a nice caboose. And he's like, what'd you say to me? He's like, yo, show my daughter some respect. And now literally, not even like a full day later, a couple hours later, they get close to him. That way we can get drugs. To be fair, we've been partying on my dime, so this is the least you can do. And Jackie's looking at him. He's like, don't fucking look at me like that. Like, just do this. And she just gives him money. He's like, here. He's like, thanks. I love you, kid. It's just like, in that moment, she's just like, wow, my dad is literally trying to pimp me out to his drug dealer to get more money. What kind of fucked up situation am I in? She ended up leaving and going home. She even called up Vince. She's like, I think I've literally hit rock bottom. Because she's like, I had a rough night. And he's like, do you want to talk about it? She's like, honestly, I don't. But she's thinking, like, I definitely need to be in a program. Not just like giving the program some of my, because she's only taking like half the step that she's not drinking and doing drugs, but she's not dealing with the core issue there, that there's a lot of messed up stuff. She comes from a complicated, messed up family. Her dad is an addict, and so like she just hasn't dealt with a lot of her own issues that are, if you don't treat the core issue, because being an addict is always going to be a thing, but at very least she can lessen like any temptations and stuff like that by working on some of her core issues. But in that moment, Leslie showed up, and she's like, oh, hey. And it's like, are you okay? You look like you're almost dead. She's like, no, I'm fine. It's like, I'm glad, she's like, you haven't picked up your phone. She's like, I'm sorry. But I'm glad, I'm sorry about, but she's like, I'm not here to talk about that. We got to find Daisy. He's like, okay. And at the end, Leslie was like, I'm glad you're not dead. And she's kind of like, yeah, thanks. It's complicated because I'm like I said, it just sucks because it's like you kind of ripped her heart out and everything. But to be fair, Jackie kind of pulled the trigger on this love thing. Like, why were you so cool? Like, maybe there's a deeper deeper thing there that you quickly fell in love with. Like, you're going for someone that you kind of knew was unavailable, and you kind of. But to be fair, once again, she took things a little too far in her own regard. If it was never meant to be serious, she did too much stuff that was kind of relationship material. That wasn't we're hooking up and keeping it casual. It's like you guys got intimate in many different regards, not just sexually, but emotionally. That I'm But that's why I'm still, because at first I was like, oh, you kind of suck for that, Leslie. But then I'm like. Does she actually like Jackie? And was it just the fact is that she love Jackie, and that she just got scared and she pushed Jackie away? Or is it or it's just kind of a byproduct of no, I legitimately do care about you. But it could also just be a self-preservation thing. Almost a little bit like the Ray thing, but that's a little different. But it could just be I don't want you to torpedo my career with you spinning out. So, but Jackie does go to Daisy's place trying to track her down. But does find her pills are still there. She hasn't bothered. Her cat was alone. It's have you noticing that her cat hasn't really eaten. It's just Daisy's gone. So it's right. A lot of that stuff it's she would have taken with her. But so there's that side of things. Obviously, Alan got word about Jorge's car, and he went and questioned Frankie about it. It's yeah, I saw somebody, because obviously he saw the person that wasn't, because I was wondering, I was are they really just going to leave Jorge's body in the trunk? It's no, of course not. They were ordered to kind of make it disappear, but yeah, now they know, right, that wasn't Jorge on the surveillance footage when the car was dropped off. To be fair, they moved back. What was it? They went back to Jamaica, so they're not in the country anyway, so no skin off their bag. So it's right, we're just gonna disappear. I don't know if it could turn into an extradition type of thing. It's you're a suspect in something, but it's just right, that's kind of a loose end potentially. I don't think that's gonna circle back, but I mean it could always fall back on them, but they're out of the country, so I don't see that being an issue for now. But like I said, it could turn into something. Alan bringing up these questions kind of gets Frankie worried because he hadn't heard from Jorge in a while. So now it's right. Then there's the whole Ray and Renee thing. He's been tracking her. And then ultimately, she comes over. She's I only got a couple minutes. And they banged it out, right? And then it's cool. And she's starts asking him questions. She's oh, your old partner. I was oh, Alan did? And she starts pushing and prodding. And you can see the look on Ray's face. He's oh, you're using me. Oh, okay. She's no, but if you want me to, I can look into this. Because she's yeah, I mean, I'm a little worried about it because Frankie's acting weird. He's freaking out. And I'm and Ray's oh, yeah, sure. So he goes to talk to a DEA agent that he knows and ask Jorge's gone. He just kind of up and disappeared. Was he a snitch? But it's no, we tried to get both Frankie or Jorge to flip, but neither one of them did. So Ray's oh, I got something that could help. But the guy kind of laughed Ray out of the room because it was yeah, your screw up of getting the both Jorge and Frankie released is kind of a big slap in the face to all of us. So get the hell out of here. But it's Ray's oh, you helped me a lot more than I thought. Then you realize it. Boy, oh boy, does he put Renee through the ringer, dude. I love it. Because he comes to Renee and he's like, he talks to her. He's like, yeah, he was a snitch for the DEA. I was like, yo, because in his mind it's like, oh, you fucked me before, and now it's my opportunity to fuck you back because I know you're trying to screw with me. Because he's trying to bring down Frankie in any shape or form. Now, whether he knows what she did, but he probably doesn't know, but I don't know. Maybe knowing that Jorge's gone and she's up here asking all these questions about him, I don't know. I don't know whether he really knows that Renee did something to him, or at the very least he knew that he could manipulate her into being scared. Like, he probably thought, like, I could just take advantage of this Jorge being missing thing and make it seem like there's something else here at play here, so... But he's implying, like, yo, he worked for the DEA, and it's like, wait, what? And you're going to go, they're going to probably take you down. And she's like, what? Why? It's like, well, you're in business with Jorge and Frankie. You're married into this. Like, of course they're going to take you down. And he's like, oh my God. And he's like, they would probably put like a tracker on you. And the tracker he put up there, like, this was not the original plan. I think the plans just evolved them. I'm like, yo, I was like, Ray, you're dirty, you're nasty. That's the effed up play right there. I'm like, wow. And manipulating her. Like that's why I'm like, I don't know if, because I don't think it is a thing of like, oh, he fully trusts, like, he stopped trusting Renee the moment he put like a tracker on her vehicle. But what's the end result? I think it is just to take Frankie down, even if he has to screw her over to do it, because he knows he's just being used. It's like, right, that's all I've been for you. Like, you're hopping in and out. You're using me, like, whenever it's convenient for you. That's why, like, you're having sex with me, because you figure I'm easier to manipulate. Granted, he still doesn't know about the baby thing, and she's making sure to keep that tight-lipped, because I guess it's like, she's probably waiting to the last moment, like, when she could use that as her trump card. You know, maybe not. We'll see. But, yeah, it got her scared. And he's like, hey, don't worry, I'm going to take care of you. And it's like, not unless Ray is using this as a way to keep Renee close. Like, I'm going to help you get rid of, I'm going to manipulate you in this situation, but it's going to be, the end result is going to work. I'm going to get you clear of all of this. I don't know. Whether he's trying to screw Renee over is still, I'm not 100% sure where his motives lie in it. I'd assume he's trying to screw. My assumption the entire time has been that he's going to try and screw her over because he knows she's just using him, but maybe he is letting his feelings get the best of him in this regard. So he is manipulating her, but it's also because he does care about her and he's going to help her out of this situation. You know, it's like, I'm going about it a very bad way, but still, I'm kind of forcing your hand for the greater good. But I don't know. I don't think Ray has that type of intention. I think it is just like, I'm going to screw you over. But like I said, that could just be me reading it the wrong way. Because obviously, Renee's kind of worried the moment, like, for one, Charmaine rolled up and wanted to talk to Frankie about business. Well, Frankie actually set up the meet and he wanted Renee there. Because Charmaine visited her uncle after everything with her sister. You know, it's like, right. And her Uncle Wayne was like, yeah, it sucks when you lose somebody, but that's why you got to keep going. Like, keep pushing it aside. Like, you're going to lose people, but you can't let that slow down. You got something that no one else wants. Because to be fair, she's the biggest, she's part of this big game of, like, being the one that, like, in between the New York supply and Frankie. Because it turns out, like, the DEA, they talked about they're not after Frankie or Jorge, they're after the big-time distributor, the people that, the people in New York who are apparently responsible for a lot of drugs, obviously, on this side of things. But it's like, yeah, like the people Charmaine gets her drugs from, which we're still unclear who that is. I guess it's going to be a little while before we get introduced to the big dogs in that regard. But Charmaine, you know, kind of, it's like, yeah, he's basically, her uncle basically was like, nah, you're big dog. Like, you got to run this. Like, despite how much it hurts, you know, use that as motivation to keep moving forward. So she told it straight up to Frankie, like, I'm not, if you don't want none of this, like, what I'm supplying, like, let me know, because I got other people who will. But it's like, right, Jorge's position of kind of running things is going to be passed to Renee, which Renee wanted less to do with this and not more. And it's like, yeah, he's like, you're going to have to step the fuck up. So even more reason why she wants to get away from all this, especially when Frankie draws her out in the middle of the night. I was like, oh, this is kind of scary, because she was thinking, like, at first she was thinking it might have been Frankie that, like, bugged her, like, it's tracking her vehicle, but it's like, no, if it was Frankie, like, he would have, this is definitely like the DEA style, as, you know, Ray was lying to her about. But I love that Frankie brought her all the way out there, and you're like, you're nervous, you're scared for her. I'm like, it's like, but they filmed that in a way to be super misleading. Because the moment he was like, yo, this is about Jorge, I was like, is it going to be something that makes him think Jorge, like I was thinking, like, did Jorge secretly was skimming off the top, and this is going to piss Frankie off? But by the time, like, Frankie and them went to, like, a trailer, in that trailer, it's Jorge's stash. Like, if things were too hot, he'd get his go bag. And so, for Frankie, which I think is interesting, just when Jackie's sure that Daisy's dead, now Frankie's sure that Jorge is dead. And it's like, oh, why would you think that? It's like, he wouldn't go anywhere without this, like, you know, so it's like, yeah, there's a good chance he's dead. And it's like, do you have any idea who did it? And he's like, no, but I'm gonna find out. It's like, can I trust you? And she's like, why even ask? And you're like, okay, but now it's like, cool, the clock is ticking down, because she's gonna have to help Ray take down Frankie before Frankie finds out that she's responsible for Jorge's death, now that he knows that Jorge's dead and somebody's, you know. Now, I don't know, I don't see it happening, but Renee could probably always try to frame someone, try to be like, oh, it had to be Charmaine who did it or someone else. Like, it's only a matter of time before, like, maybe things start, like, pointing in her direction and stuff, like, especially, like, I'm already suspicious of her recent, like, comings and goings, and she's just like, oh, like, I had some errands to run. Like, I don't know. Frankie is paranoid by nature anyway. You add on to this that he believes his cousin is dead, too, so we'll see. Jackie did show up at Ray's place being paranoid about, like, nah, like, maybe I should tell Alan, which Ray was like, whoa, like, you're drunk right now. And she's like, I'm not drunk. And she's like, who are you to really say anything? I mean, you live in your fucking basement. She's like, yeah, you're not the cop, Ray. I am. I'm the one with the badge. And she's like, you're right. I'm not a cop. And you are the one with the situation. But he's like, I don't want to see you, like, lose everything that you have, because he knows firsthand what that's like. So it's like, right, he knows how important this is to Jackie, so he's actually looking out for Jackie. So it's like, right, you should get some rest, then talk to Alan, because obviously you're, like, strung out right now. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna go home and get some Z's. He's like, no, I'm not gonna let you get another DUI. You just sleep here on my couch. He's like, I'll sleep on the floor. And she's like, really? But I'm too wired to go. He's just, close your eyes, it'll work out. And it's just like, she's laying on the bed, and he's just getting the little thing out, and she's like, Ray, can you, like, sleep in the bed with me? And he was like, okay. And her face is the other way. And I did like the boss move of her coming over and big spooning him. I love it. And it's just kind of like, oh, this is kind of an awkward situation. And just she has to make it so awkward by being like, I mean, we can make out a little bit, but no dick stuff, right? And he's like, shut the fuck up, Jackie. And I'm like, honestly, I like that, you know? Because I think they get along so well, because, like, I think she sees Ray for who he is, but also, like, Ray is one of the few people in her life because the only other person that saw her for who she was Ed, but she kind of screwed the pooch on that relationship, that father-daughter relationship they had. But I think in this moment, it's like she needed someone to rely on, and, like, Ray was that guy. I think it's like, you know, it's like, right, you know, you see me for me, and, like, yeah, you call me out for you're someone in my life that can call me out for my bullshit, you know? But she also can call him out for his, so... But I think they make such, like, because there's parallels that are drawn between their situations. So hopefully Jackie can be on the ups. Like, once again, like, hopefully this isn't just I'm going to stop drinking. And, like, I hope she legitimately does get help from Vince, because, like, she is a rock bottom right now. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.